Time 0 is minus 1000, 2000. Time 1000. Time 2 is what we need to find out. Time 3, 500. Time 4, 500. Now, if IRR is 25%, what it essentially means is whatever investment we've done on that, we should be earning 25%. Do you agree? If that is the case, then this 2000 by the end of 4 years should become how much? So second clear TVM, let's do it together. Second clear TVM, 2000 present value, 4 as N, 25 is IY, compute future value. How much? 4882. So after 4 years, if we have an amount of 4882 with us, then we've been able to earn 25%. Now this 500 today will remain 500. Let us find out how much this 500 should become by the end of year 1. Second clear TVM, 500 present value, 1 is N, 25 is IY. How much? 625. This X in 2 years time will become future value of X. We don't know that right now. Have you an agreement? This 1000 we will have to take now a future value. Second clear TVM, 1000 present value, 3 as N, 25 as IY, compute future value. 1953. Now do you agree that total of these 4 amounts should come out to be 488? So then find out how much should be that future value of X. How much should be the future value of X? How much? 1805. So this amount of by the end of year 4 should be 1805. So now take a present value for 2 years. So second clear TVM, 1805 future value, 2 as N, 25 is IY, compute present value. 1155. Have you got the logic? Let's cross check if you've solved this right. Now press the cash flow button. Then say second clear work. Press the cash flow button, say second clear work. Then cash flow 0 would be 2000, negative, enter. Cash flow 1 would be 1000. 2 would be 1155. 3 would be 500. 4 would be 500. And then press the IRR button and then say compute. Are we getting 25? Is it fine? Next question. Let us say beta of a stock is 1.5. Current dividend is 4. Current stock price is 40. Return on equity 50%. Retention ratio 60%. Current bond market price is 1255. Coupon rate is 12%. Maturity 5 years. Coupon is semi-annual. Tax rate 30%. Debt by equity ratio 60%. Calculate WACC, weighted average cost of capital. Let's see. Step number 1, we will calculate a sustainable growth rate. Sustainable growth rate G is calculated as, tell me, ROE into retention ratio. So we have ROE of 50%, we have retention ratio of 60%. That means your sustainable growth rate is of 30%. How many of you got this one right? Fine. So now we have sustainable growth rate. Now we can use dividend discount model to calculate cost of equity. The formula is D1 divided by P0 plus G. Do we have D1? Do we have D1? When they say current dividend, is it D0 or D1? It is D0. So if D0 is 4, your D1 would be 4 into 1.3. How did I get 1.3? 30% the growth rate. Are we on agreement? So 4 into 1.3 divided by 40 plus 30%, which is the growth rate that we calculated here. So that would be 5.2 divided by 40 plus 0.3. How much would that be? 43%. So now your cost of equity has come out to be 43%. How many of you got this right originally? Okay. Then next step is to calculate the value of or YTM of bond. So our YTM of bond, we will have to use the TVM row, second clear TVM, 1255 negative present value, 1255 negative present value. Tell me how much should be the payment? 60 is the payment. Why? It's half of 120. Are you following this? 60 is the payment. How much should be N? 10. 10 would be N. 1000 would be future value. Compute IY. Is this the YTM? Is this the YTM? No, because this is a yield for 6 months. So multiply this with 2. Tell me how much would be the YTM? After having multiplied with 2, 6.0. So your YTM is 6.01%. And therefore this is the cost of debt? Yes or no? Is this the cost of debt? I mean, is this the effective cost of debt? No, because we have to make adjustment for tax rate. So 6.01 we will multiply with 70%. How come I got 70? 1 minus 30%. So that would be how much? So we'll just keep it as 4.2. So what we have now, we have a cost of equity. We also have cost of debt. What we need to calculate now is the weighted average cost of capital. So how do you do this? The debt divided by equity ratio is given to us as 0.6, which means if debt is 0.6, equity is how much? 1. Therefore your total capital is how much? 1.6. So now we calculate ratio, which would be debt divided by total capital, which would be 0.6 divided by 1.6. How much is that? 37.5%. And therefore equity as a ratio to total capital would be 62.5%. %and 0.6 is the same thing. When you write 60%, 60% is same as 0.6. Should we go ahead? And then the final part. Now we calculate weighted average. 62.5% into, what was the cost of equity? 43% plus 37.5% into 4.2%. How much? 28.4. Which part? 1.3 the growth rate. If dividend is 4 and your growth rate is 30%, we are expecting dividend to grow by 30% every year. So last year dividend was 4, next year it would grow by 30%, so it would be 5.2. 4 into 1.3. We'll do one more example. If debt as a proportion to capital is 37.5%, calculate debt equity ratio. If debt as a proportion to capital is 37.5%, calculate debt equity ratio. Is it 0.6? See, if debt is 37.5, do you agree, Aminder, that equity as a ratio to capital is 67.5? Then debt as a ratio to equity would be 37.5 divided by 67.5, which would be 0.6. Yeah, 62.5, sorry, my mistake. 62.5, which would be 0.6. One more. Debt as a ratio to equity is 1.5. Calculate debt as a proportion to capital. So now what it means is, if your debt is 1.5, equity is how much? 1. So your total capital is how much? 2.5. So debt as a ratio to total capital would be 60%. Equity as a proportion to total capital would be 40%. Are we fine?